Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Unversed Podcast. Danny here. And today we're talking about Heliophobia by Look, IRA, and Kubrick's. So, yeah, joint album here. Look, IRA doing vocals and Kubrick's doing the instrumentals and production. Now, I have yet to listen to these guys' music. This is my first time listening to Look, IRA specifically. However, not the first time listening to Kubrick's. It's one of those things I love about music, you know, when you start to pay attention to who's worked on albums, right? Who actually works on music. Producers for instrumentals, who does the mixing, features on albums, you know? Cause for a long time, I never really paid attention to that kind of stuff. Like an example, if I don't know, Mega Ran or somebody like Eminem or whatever dropped an album, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna listen to the album and I'll listen to the features. I'm like, oh, those are cool features, but most of the time I never really sat down and looked. I'm like, okay, well, who is this person on the feature type of deal, right? It's like one of those things. It's like that meme where it's just, when you actually play that song, you always skip and turns out it's hella fire, right? Kind of like that. A great example is Kill Bill. You know, he's one of my favorite artists right now. It turns out that I actually listened to him a long time ago on Blur Bomber that dropped, right? Mega Ran and Mr. Wilson's album. And he did the instrumental for 20XX as well as, doing a verse, right? As a bonus track. And at the time, you know, I was like, oh, it's a cool track. I never really listened to it in a sense. But not until way later after listening to, Kill Bill and then just, you know, listening to music. And I was like, wait, was that Bill on the verse? And then, you know, I look at the track and I'm like, wait a minute. What? Blur? I've been listening to Kill Bill. I heard about him this long ago type of deal. It's similar to here, with Kubrick's, you know, and it's especially more difficult when it's a producer, right? Because that's something you really wouldn't normally look at. Right. Especially when it doesn't have the producer name, on the track name. Usually that's how it is, right? You'll see a track, example, Smoke Break featuring Aerospace. It would say featuring Aerospace, right? And then there's other songs that do that as well. And every now and then it will say, you know, produced by so-and-so on the track name, but if not, it's in the album description. And, that's one of the, you know, album description. Well, I don't really read that kind of stuff most of the time, you know? And then, actually editing my, playlist that I made, based on the show over in LA, right? The Icon Unlimited show with Kill Bill, Rav, and, Aerospace. And then listening to what he was saying at the show for Young Dolph. And he was like, this, shout outs to my man Kubrick's on the beat. Stop sleeping on Kubrick's. You know, I was like, Kubrick's? Wait a minute. I just started oh, okay. So I have heard of Kubrick's instrumentals. And I just, you know, it's just one of those things that you never really pay attention to. And man, you know, I always feel bad when you're like, oh, I've actually listened to this person before. I just never bothered trying to actually look on who made instrumentals and all that. Or who actually the feature was type of deal, you know? But now I'm paying attention to that a lot more now. And, that's not how I found this album. How I found this album was actually, over on the EXO Discord chat, right? Look, IRA is in there. We ended up following each other on Twitter. I was like, oh, he's a cool dude, you know, see his posts here and there. And he kept saying oh, Heliophobia is dropping this and that. And I was like, oh, okay, he does music too, right on. And then I was like, okay, let's check it out, listen to it. So let's just get right into it. You know, it has, 7 tracks. It's pay what you want, of course. And there's also 2 options for merch. You can buy the CD or the cassette. Now I have to say the CD looks phenomenal. It looked like the album artwork is amazing, you know. Shout outs to the photographer for that. Marina Colquette, her link is in the description of the album, and of course the album will be in the description. And yeah, it just looks great. And then even the CD, the actual disc artwork is really great too, really complements and extends what the album cover is. Now, I guess cause I was half asleep or something, I ended up buying the cassette, instead of the CD. I guess, I don't know, I just thought I clicked on the CD, but nevertheless, the cassette looks amazing as well. The album artwork looks great as a cassette. I actually have it right here. And, what I really like about it is, that the cassette is actually red. And it looks like the same artwork as the, CD, right, on there. And, has side A and side B. Now, it was not my intention to grab the cassette. It is nice, of course. But after listening to the album for a good while, I felt, you know what? It's appropriate to buy it on the cassette. I'm actually glad I bought it on here, because listening to this album, I was thinking like, okay, what to expect from this, right? Never really listened to Look IRA before. Now I'm gonna, go and check out his music. But, Kubrick's, Young Doll from Drop Season. Okay, I like that instrumental. Is that what we're gonna get the feel for? Alright, cool, let's check it out. And, the instrumentals are amazing. The lyrics are amazing. The type of hip hop it is, I was not expecting in a sense. It's very different from what I normally listen to as of recent. It actually gives me vibes from like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when you would have MTV in a sense as your alarm clock in the morning, so your TV turns on or whatever, and MTV just starts playing, and then, a bunch of music videos back to back. This album gives me those kind of vibes. It could differ, of course, from person to person. But that's, I don't know, that's what it gives me the feel, and I like it a lot. Again, it's only 7 tracks. I do wish it was a lot longer, but, still great quality for each track. We did get one feature from, October 1st on the 6-track monthly, and that was pretty great, in itself as well. And, yeah, again, the artwork looks great. It's a black and white photo, but we do have some red on there, which is blood splatter. It's the theme here, as it's also on the cassette and the CD in red. So that gives you an idea of how this album is supposed to feel. It also has like that old school, border on there for music, right? And again, I gotta say, like, this is some really good stuff. I think my favorite track so far has to be, Symphony. That's the 3rd track. Castlevania inspired song. And yeah, like, Look IRA has a really distinct voice. And I like it a lot. The instrumentals, like, complement it so much. Like, I can't imagine any other voice right off the top of my head out of all the rappers I listen to. He's the perfect fit for these instrumentals. It's great. So yeah, after listening to this, I just keep bumping it here and there, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking, forward to checking out Look IRA's, music. And, more Kubrick stuff. I ended up buying Kubrick's whole discography, on Bandcamp. It was like $20 or something. Now that doesn't give you the option for the CD. I don't believe it's just like all the digital stuff he's dropped. But I do recommend grabbing up this. If you're a fan of collecting physical for music, definitely grab the CD or the cassette, whichever you prefer. They're both great. Actually so side B actually has extra artwork on the cassette compared to the CD, so that's a nice touch on there too. Now this is on Kubrick's, Bandcamp, so, if you don't click the link in the description, make sure you look, for Kubrick's, but of course, link will always be in the description for this stuff. Overall, like, it's a short album, it's only 7 tracks, each track's about, like, average, looking like 3 minutes, so it's about a 20-minute album, but, once, it's just like with New Moon for me, like, once we get to the end, I was like, oh, no, run it back, click play, and then just listen to it again. The transitions as well in this, album are, 50-50, you know. Some of the songs don't transition, and then the other songs do transition pretty well to the point where, yeah, you don't recognize it changing to a different song. Like an example is, I believe it's from Symphony. Yeah, so from Symphony to All Seasons, right, track 3 and 4, there is a pause at the end of Symphony, but it's the whole thing about an album having a theme to it, right, is plays a big part in how you place the tracks within your album, right? And at the end of Symphony, you know, again, there's that short pause, and then it goes straight into the next track, All Seasons, right? And it doesn't start off with a hook as it's traditional, right? It actually starts with a laugh track right into Look IRA's verse, which, you know, at first when I listen to music, I'm not looking at the track list the whole time, especially if it's a new album. I'm just going to listen through it a couple times, trying to get the feel, understand, you know, what the album's about, listen to the lyrics really. And when I got to that transition, I figured like, okay, that's just, you know, what the song's doing. You know, it's going to have a pause and then go into the second half of the track. And then the further I got into the song, All Seasons, I was like, wait a minute, is this a different song? And I looked, and sure enough, it was a different song. So good props to that, you know, to where it's more of not anticipating the next track, but really just absorbing the music as a whole. So that's really great stuff. I appreciate that for the album. So yeah, again, overall, go check out Heliophobia. Really great stuff. Feeling like it's definitely going to hit my top 10 this year. And, yeah, again, I have to say, like, what a strong start for the year. You know, we got started off with what I believe was, it was New Moon, you know, and then we got hit with Otaku Moods. There's actually an album I'm going to be checking out that dropped before Heliophobia, from this new artist I haven't checked out yet, but I ended up buying his discography as well. So, we might review it. We'll see where it goes from there. And then, yeah, Heliophobia, and, dropped on Valentine's Day, which, you know, adds another layer to what this album really is about. So that's some good stuff. There's also 2 other albums that dropped, in February that, I need to check out. The 64th Wonder EP from Sage, the 64th Wonder, and, God's Number from his group, I believe they are now called Slump Gang. Let me double check on that. Yeah, Slump Gang 777 is the new name for his group with everybody else, like oh gosh, sorry, I'm spacing out here. Vagabond Maurice, you know, and all those great guys. So I'm gonna be listening to that, and those reviews will drop soon. And while we wait for that, guys, remember you can always follow us on social media at unversedpodcast at gmail.com, or excuse me, at unversedpodcast anywhere you go. And you can email us at unversedpodcast at gmail.com if you have any question, comments, concerns. And again, right now I'm listening to the album while I review it, and from the end of All Seasons to Sadness, again, it kind of pulls that same thing that it did previously. Except there's no pause. It literally just continues the static in the background. You know, it's a very, cliche, I guess you could say, currently with, hip hop. Kill Bill and, you know, everybody in EXO does that a lot with their music. And it transitions perfectly, and, you know, it just keeps it going. Great stuff, you know. Oh yeah, and the lyrics are just so strong in, Heliophobia as well. So, again, yeah, link will be in the description, guys. So be sure to check it out. Again, it's pay what you want. It's on streaming services like I know it's on Spotify. I want to say it's on SoundCloud. If not, it's, you know, of course it's on Bandcamp. That's where I'll be getting a lot of my music recently. And, or of course you can always buy the CD and cassette. I always recommend buying physical merch. You know, if you're a collector, I'm a big fan of collecting CDs. Whenever an artist decides to drop some, I'm definitely picking it up, especially, you know, if it's not a big thing that they do, you know, especially like these kind of underground artists that are just really on these, streaming platforms. You know, you gotta support the artist, man. So, Every time I see a CD, I'm like, yeah, hey, if I bought the album already, I'm just gonna buy the CD, man. Like, I don't know, it's just one of those things, you know. So again, look out for more music reviews. Those will be dropping soon. And thanks for listening as always, guys. And just sit back, chill. Let's listen to some music from this album.
Die, monster. You don't belong in this world.
It is not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. I was called here, Mike.
It's the Shogun to know when I got nothing to flow for. Never relaxed, I stay strapped, I'm back in a cold form. Straight from the bag that I grasp and always roll on. Succumb to the past and get ice like a snowstorm. Ash out when you see me pass out in the crypt. Laugh loud at how I fucking smashed out all of your ribs. I tore the box and there go, I think I ruined the paper. But I'll still roll it up if the homie lets me later. Meanwhile, this incense got my vision fucked. My eyes ain't even open and I'm forced into a blush. I'm torched and need a hug. I'm boosted off the clutch. Forget these fucking feelings, get to passing me the Dutch. It never needs a meaning till I split. I'm never whole unless I'm twisted. But by then I'm so far gone, I'm practically missing. And I could just be somewhere in a field in my mind's eye, but I can never see what it reveals. I'm storming the castle, I'm fighting crystal rips. Never know Simon Bell when I shrink, driving know what the shit. Piling over bodies, I see the skin in my interior. Broken bones crunch under the wheels and keep my mirror out. Yes, I reflect on that. I roll so low inside my times fell flat and the hoops got to go, yo. I read every single word by candlelight till some motherfucker comes around and takes away the night.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. Funny up talk. How about you?
It's my symphony when I just speak. Hold up in the dojo. I hear record and tap my nose just to let the flow know to go off. When I kill it, she labeled me as a sin. They told me I had the capacity to hate. I'm deceived, but I wouldn't catch you later. Radiator, I've forgotten your touch, but I robbed that I burned myself. I didn't deserve your love, but I was still alone on a cold winter night. I should have died or tried, cause even then I knew you'd be alright. I'm storming the castle, I'm fighting crystal whips. Never